Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of Dashboard Fridays. I'm Adam from Squared Up, and today I'm joined by my colleague Ben. Hey Ben.
Hi Adam, nice to meet you.
Thank you very much for joining the video today. Ben has joined us to talk about a dashboard he built for our dashboard competition. It's all about diving, which is something I own a wetsuit, but that doesn't necessarily mean anything. I'm more of a fall off a paddleboard kind of guy. But Ben's going to walk us through the dashboard he built and just tell us a little bit about where the data comes from and a few other sort of interesting things that he's set up on the dashboard. So Ben, I've brought the dashboard up, and why don't you just sort of walk us through what it does, where the data's from, that kind of thing.
Sure. So this is my scuba diving dashboard, which makes a nice change from my normal dashboards, around monitoring AWS and monitoring Azure. It's nice to do something fun for a change. So I belong to a scuba diving club based in Newbury, and on most weekends we will take our boat out to the sea from Portland Harbour. It's a rigid inflatable boat, so it's quite small and it's inflatable. So weather conditions are pretty important for us before we go diving. And what I really wanted is a single dashboard with a single top level sort of status, which you can see in the top left here is nice and green. And that status is a kind of amalgamation of all the important things we look for before we go diving. So on this dashboard, if I start in the top left, we have wind speed, really important because if it's blowing a tornado out there, we really don't want to be taking the boat out. So the wind speed is nice and low at the moment. We've got a lovely gauge visualization here, but I've actually set up some monitoring, some thresholds here. So if this wind speed gets a bit too high to be comfortable, this color will change from a lovely green to amber or potentially red if we really don't want to go out. The wind direction is just another nice metric to have. Are we going to be blown into the cliffs and blown onto the rocks or not? And then just some sort of general weather conditions about the current temperature. It's absolutely lovely here in the UK at the moment, and some broken clouds. Over on the top right here, we've got wind speed over the next few hours. So even though it might be lovely and calm right now, I can see, it's going to take me 3 hours to drive down to Portland and then a few hours on the boat to get to the dive site. So what's the wind speed going to be doing at that point in time? That's really nice. And I'll dig into a minute about how this tile's done because it's rather interesting. Below that, just tidal predictions for the next few days. I mean, the tides are fairly regular here, but it's nice to know that we're kind of aligning with what's called slack water. So typically you want to go diving just as the tide's going from high tide and switching over. So the water's not quite coming in, it's not quite going out, it's nice and stationary. And in the bottom left here, I'm using an image tile just to remind myself of some of the tidal currents that flow around Portland Harbour and around Weymouth. This is typically kind of where we dive. All our dive sites are around this area. So it's nice to know which way the divers are going to be kind of gradually pushed so that the boat can be in the right position to drop them off or pick them up.
Nice. I guess you could do all sorts of fancy monitoring around the tidal predictions, that kind of thing. Having lived in Guernsey for a few years, where they have a 10-meter tide and a 14-meter spring tide, it's pretty crazy for diving. I can imagine that being pretty useful, being able to be told if it was just going to be too severe or what phase it's in.
Yeah, absolutely. So
Yeah,
this
tell us
dashboard,
about wind speed. Yeah.
the dashboard makes use of our new web API data source. So the product itself obviously has lots of plugins to connect to anything you could possibly imagine. But for those things that we don't yet have a plugin for, you can simply use our web API data source to connect to anything. So, I mean, let's pick one of these. If I pick this wind speed tile, you'll see it has one data source here, and this is using our web API data stream. So it's currently talking to an API hosted on weatherfile.com. And what I'm able to do with that is configure a kind of base connection to weatherfile for a particular location. And then for this particular data stream, I can talk to just one of the endpoints it provides, in this case, an averages endpoint, which gives me lovely sort of minimum, maximum, average wind speed for the given location. So because this particular data stream actually returns back a number of metrics in one go, I'm able to use our SQL analytics feature to pull out the three that I'm interested in, rebrand them, relabel them, give them nice, meaningful names, and sort of amalgamate those into one chart. So that's what I'm doing here. So that means when we look at this chart, I'm able to hover over and see minimum, maximum, and average values at any point in time, which is quite nice.
Yeah, that's really cool. Is all the data from that same API, or are there others involved?
There's a couple involved. So that top left one was using weatherfile.com. The other weather conditions here are using Open Weather Map. And then I think the tidal chart is coming from the Admiralty API, which is a UK service for providing tide data.
Nice. So bunch of web API data, all nice and customized, bit of cool monitoring turned on. Have you, would you share this with other people in the club? Have you shared it with other people in the club? Is that the kind of, the next step you might do? Maybe get a little team collaboration going on?
Absolutely. I mean, there's lots of things we could do as a kind of social club. So I am looking to put this dashboard up in our little boathouse, and maybe have further dashboards for showing recent images that the club members have taken, or when we eventually have our lovely video tile, maybe we could show a webcam of the dive sites itself, which would be great. So yeah, lots
Nice.
to do.
Yeah.
I can tinker with this for days, I think.
Yeah, it's probably just worth repeating for everybody watching. Not only are you director of engineering, you're director of engineering for the product that we're looking at right now. So some of your use cases may be somewhat interesting and potentially outside of the reach of our current average customer. So yeah, it'd be great to have you back on in the future to tell everybody how you hack apart our own product.
Absolutely.
Anything else you wanted to mention, or shall I go ahead and wrap us up?
No, I think that's about it.
Cool. Well, yeah, thanks again, Ben, for walking us through that. We've had loads of really, really interesting submissions for the dashboard competition, so there'll be a few more videos like this covering a sort of untypical use cases of Squared Up. But yeah, if you want to check out any others, go to our dashboard gallery, squaredup.com/dashboard gallery. And if you want to ask any questions about Squared Up in general, monitoring, SQL analytics, anything like that, head over to community.squaredup.com. But yep, that's it for today. So yeah, thanks again to Ben, and thanks for watching.
Thanks, Adam.